38.51's a world record. He's going to get a third gold medal. 38.16. They've turned the world record.
Under Eugene's lights, the United States stepped onto the track with one clear target, a World U20 4x100-meter record that had stood for 5 years. The Americans were already the favorites after a strong qualifying performance, but this final offered something bigger than another championship victory. Blake Hamilton would lead off, Dylan Mitchell would run the second leg, Kyler Brown would take the third, and Tate Taylor would wait for the final handoff. If the first three runners could build the right advantage, Taylor would have the chance to turn a dominant team performance into history. The record they were chasing was 38.51 seconds, set by South Africa at the 2021 World U20 Championships in Nairobi. That mark had remained untouched for 5 years, and breaking it would require almost everything to go right. Explosive starts, clean exchanges, sustained speed around the curve, and a final straight strong enough to keep the clock below 38.51. The United States had the talent to challenge it, but a world record is never guaranteed simply because a team is favored. Taylor's presence made the possibility even more interesting. Long before this relay final, he had already established himself as one of the most remarkable young sprinters in the world. At the 2025 Texas UIL Class 6A State Championships, he ran a win-legal 9.92 seconds in the 100 meters, a national high school record, and a performance that placed him second on the World U20 all-time list at the time. That was not the profile of a specialist who was only dangerous with a baton in his hand. Taylor had already shown that his individual speed could translate into something exceptional over the final straight. That became even clearer in 2026. At the Miramar Invite, the Texas High School All-Stars ran 38.56 in the 4x100, and Taylor anchored the team with an 8.78-second flying split. The performance gave a preview of what he could do when he received the baton with momentum already built, but Miramar was only a warning. Eugene was the championship stage, the competition was deeper, and the record was sitting directly in front of the American quartet. There was another reason the American lineup was so dangerous. 3 of the 4 runners had already demonstrated serious individual speed. Hamilton, Mitchell, and Brown were not simply placeholders before Taylor's leg. They had enough ability to put the United States in position to attack the record before the anchor ever received the baton. That meant Taylor's job was not to rescue a struggling relay. It was to finish one that had been built around sustained pressure from the opening steps. Then the final began. Hamilton attacked the opening curve and gave the United States exactly what it needed, producing a 10.54-second first leg split. He was not simply getting the team moving, he was establishing the early advantage that would give the next runner room to build. Mitchell took the baton and carried that momentum down the back straight, producing a split of approximately 9.17 seconds and keeping the Americans firmly in control. 2 legs were gone, and the possibility of the record was becoming more than an optimistic target. Kyler Brown was next. His job was to protect the lead through the bend, and ideally make it even larger before the final exchange. He did exactly that, carrying the Americans farther away from the chasing field before delivering the baton to Taylor. The sequence was beginning to look almost perfectly constructed. Hamilton created the advantage, Mitchell maintained the pressure, and Brown expanded the separation. Now everything came down to the anchor. Taylor received the baton with the United States already in front, but the race was not finished. The final 100 meters would determine whether the Americans had simply won another gold medal or rewritten the record book. Taylor had already shown at Miramar that he could produce an extraordinary flying split, but this time he had a world championship crowd, a world record within reach, and 3 teammates who had placed him in the perfect position to attack it. Then Taylor opened up. The gap continued to grow as he drove down the straight, and the finish line came toward him with the clock moving toward a number the Americans had been chasing from the start. Great Britain and Northern Ireland were still producing an exceptional run behind him, but the United States had built too much separation. Taylor crossed the line, and the scoreboard stopped at 38.16 seconds. The record was gone. The United States had improved South Africa's 38.51 World U20 record by 0.35 seconds, a huge margin at this level. Great Britain and Northern Ireland finished second in 38.9, setting a European U20 record of their own, while Jamaica took third in 39.01. This was not a race where the Americans barely survived a challenge. They had produced a performance strong enough to put the world record out of reach of the field. But then came the number that made Taylor's contribution impossible to ignore, 8.75 seconds. His anchor split was even faster than the 8.78 he had recorded at Miramar earlier in the season. 0.03 of a second may sound tiny, but when the previous performance was already at an extraordinary level, finding another 0.03 is another indication that Taylor's speed was still moving forward. There is an important distinction, however. An 8.75-second relay split is not an official individual 100-meter time. Anchor splits are flying times, meaning the athlete receives the baton while already moving, and the timed portion begins after that acceleration is underway. Taylor's 8.75 therefore cannot be treated as though he had run an 8.75-second individual 100 meters. What it does show is how devastating his speed was once he entered the final straight with momentum and open track ahead of him. That is also why comparisons with elite relay anchors have to be handled carefully. Taylor can legitimately be discussed alongside famous names such as Usain Bolt, Noah Lyles, Asafa Powell, and Akani Simbine when the subject is extraordinary relay closing speed, but that does not mean his career has already reached theirs. Those athletes built their reputations through years of individual and relay performances at the senior level, and relay splits themselves can vary with exchange position, timing methods, and how much speed an athlete carries into the exchange. The useful comparison is therefore not to pretend that 8.75 equals an individual sprint time, but to recognize that Taylor has entered a conversation normally reserved for exceptional relay closers. At 17, that is what makes the number so striking. It is evidence of remarkable potential, not proof of where he will ultimately rank in sprint history. What makes the Eugene performance especially significant is that it did not arrive in isolation. Taylor had already won the 100 and 200 meters at the US U20 championships, including a 10.15 victory in the 100 and a 19.94 personal best in the 200. He then returned to the relay and produced the fastest anchor split of his season, while helping destroy a 5-year-old World U20 record. The pattern matters. His individual speed and his relay speed are developing together, and that makes the next stage of his career far more interesting. There is still a major question that Eugene cannot answer. Junior success does not automatically become senior dominance. Taylor will eventually have to reproduce this level of speed against older, deeper fields, under greater pressure, and over a much longer career. The 38.16 record proves what he and his teammates can do right now. The 8.75 split shows just how dangerous Taylor can be when everything comes together. What it does not tell us is where his ceiling will be. For now, Eugene provides a remarkable snapshot of an athlete moving rapidly beyond the expectations placed on him. The United States came into the final as the favorite, but they left as World U20 record holders, and the performance gave the audience something more valuable than a single fast time. A clear picture of how Taylor's individual speed can transform a relay when the exchanges and the conditions all come together. Hamilton created the advantage, Mitchell maintained it, Brown expanded it, and Taylor delivered the final blow with an 8.75-second anchor split. The record belongs to the team, but the final straight gave Taylor another defining performance. And if this season has shown anything, it is that the most interesting part of Tate Taylor's story may be that we still do not know how fast he can ultimately become.